This video is sponsored by CI Hub.
Hi guys, this is Dax Castro for CreativePro. I just want to share with you a sneak peek at what I'm working on for my session titled Next Steps in InDesign Accessibility. You may be aware that accessible documents require image descriptions, but do you know the difference between actual text and alt text? Let's take a look at this sample sales flyer so we can see that the word sale is creatively imposed on these red tags. We can also see there are 3 different flavors of cupcakes here for sale. Now, the fact that the word sale is letter by letter imposed on these tags doesn't present the reader with any meaningful information. So therefore, we don't need an alternative description to tell them letters S-A-L-E on 4 tags hanging from the top of the page. That isn't really useful information, nor does it add to the user's experience. So we simply need to replace the image with the word sale. And that's what actual text does. Actual text is used when you have to replace the image-based text with the actual word in text. So let's see how we set the actual text for this object. We have a few different ways we can do it. We can right-click on the object and go to Object Export Options, or we can select Object from the drop-down menu and go to Object Export Options. Now, I have a shortcut set, Control-Alt-O, which you won't have set unless you have a custom shortcut set. I use this so often that I just have to have a shortcut for it, right? So let's go ahead and right-click on our image and go to Object Export Options, and it brings up the dialog box. Now, normally you might have alt text selected from these 3 menus. We have alt text, tag PDF, and EPUB and HTML. Because we want to set actual text, we want to select the tagged PDF option. And then you can see here it says actual text source. It says from structure, but we want to change that to custom. And then we simply want to enter the word sale. And that's all we need to do to set the actual text for this object. Then we can simply click Done. Now, what about the objects for the cupcakes? We need to set descriptive elements for those. We want to tell people what kind of cupcake is for sale, and in this case, description of the cupcake really does give meaningful information to the end user. They want to know it's got chocolate frosting and white sprinkles. I mean, come on, we can't forget the sprinkles, right? And then we want to know that there are fresh blueberries and fresh raspberries on each of these cupcakes. So how do we set the alternative description for these? Again, we can simply right-click on the image and go to Object Export Options. And in this case, we want to select the alt text dialog. And then in the alt text source, we want to change it from structure to custom. And since we have the chocolate one selected, we're going to go ahead and give it an alternative description of chocolate mint cupcake with chocolate frosting and white sprinkles, right? Now, you may be tempted to just simply hit the Done button and then go down to your next object, but let me give you something you may not have known. You can leave this dialog box open and then simply click on the next image that you want to tag. Now, you can see that if I go back to the image I was on before, that our dropdown changes back to custom and shows us the description that we had already entered. And if I click back on the blueberry, we're ready to start our next object. So we're going to change our dropdown from structure to custom, and then we're going to enter blueberry cupcake with blueberry frosting and fresh blueberry, right? Then we're not going to hit done. We're just going to click on our next object. And again, the alt text source changes back to from structure. We're going to change it back to custom. And then we're going to enter our raspberry cupcake with raspberry frosting and a fresh raspberry. Now that we've got all of our images tagged, we can click Done. And we will know that if we were to export this document to a PDF, the meaningful descriptions for each of these cupcake images would come through, and then the user would hear the word sale. 3 cupcakes, $1. 1/3 the calories of regular cupcakes. And then it would announce the word graphic and read the alternate description for this cupcake. And then you'd hear the word graphic again, and then it would read the alternate description for this one, and so on and so forth, to allow the user to understand that there are 3 images, all differing, all giving great flavored cupcakes with varying different items on each. All right, guys, I hope that you learned something new in this quick sneak peek. Be sure to catch the rest of my session as I take a deeper dive into this topic and the next steps in InDesign accessibility. My name is Dax Castro for CreativePro. I'll see you there.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. And for thousands more how-to articles and tutorials, visit our website, creativepro.com, and become a member today. Thanks for learning with us.